Thanks so much for joining us here on Facebook Weather and on 9 News Watch. I'm meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Going to take a detailed look at that Denver forecast and that Colorado forecast, which features, guess what, more mountain snow, but you'll certainly, I think most of us are pretty happy to finally see some snow moving its way here into the Denver area. I'm going to have full details on that and kind of break down the forecast a bit on that end as well. But here's a look at those overall headlines. The mountains getting more snow. Today is generally pretty light stuff, though. It's maybe an inch or two for most of the mountains. Then tomorrow, a secondary system, the one that'll lead to snow for us here in Denver, kicks in, and that snow picks back up again in the mountains. And until then, it's pretty chilly for us here in town. 28 right now in Denver as of noon, teens and 20s throughout the mountains, where it's actually probably a bit warmer just because we've got a bit more, we've got a different air mass into the mountains. And so it's actually a bit warmer for us, getting that southwesterly flow. So Buena Vista at 30, Saguache at 30 as well. Colorado Springs at 40 at this point, and those temperatures not going to rise too much more, but a little bit better than yesterday. We only got up to 33 in Denver yesterday. That tied it for our coldest high temperature so far this year. Today, 38. I mean, wouldn't exactly break out the Hawaiian shirt, but you know what? We are a bit better than where we've been, at least compared to yesterday. I don't know. I'm trying to sell it, but that's why I'm in weather and not in sales. All right, winter storm watch into the mountains. We do have the potential for another 1 to 3 feet of snow. I mentioned how today is generally lighter snow. Tomorrow, the heavy stuff kicks in, and that's where we could be seeing a fairly widespread 1 to 3 feet of additional snowfall. Another point I kind of want to mention in here while I've got a bit of added time. Backcountry skiers and snowboarders, folks, this is not, especially tomorrow and Friday, it is going to be awful. We are going to be looking at, unfortunately, avalanche warnings and very, very high avalanche danger. So tomorrow, Friday, not the days to be going backcountry by any means here, folks. I kind of say this a little bit personally. I actually lost a friend of mine a couple years ago to backcountry skiing. And so, folks, please, in an avalanche. So, folks, tomorrow, Friday, don't do it into the backcountry, because we are going to be looking at strong winds. We've had so much snow. That layer underneath that snow that's going to be coming in with this next storm system is going to be so weak that we're going to be looking at widespread avalanches just back over the weekend. If you've been out of town at Cameron Pass, there was a backcountry skier who died. Again, I'm not meaning this to scare you at all, but folks, you know, I have lots of friends who backcountry ski. I've done it a few times myself. Not Thursday or Friday. It is not the time to do it. Light snow, as I mentioned, for us here into the western slope. That continues on down through Mullis Pass as well as Monarch Pass. That snow will continue throughout the day. It's light stuff, generally speaking, but it'll make the roadways a bit slick, no doubt about that. And as we head later on through tonight, that light snow, as I mentioned, continues. This is, again, not big deal snow. What will be a big deal? Two things. One, we're going to get a pretty sharp cold front that drops its way through Colorado. And two, we're going to kind of crank up that jet stream and pump in more Pacific moisture into the mountains starting tomorrow. That'll last through the day. That snow heavy at times for us here into the mountains. And by tomorrow night, we'll see that snow starting to really kind of pick up in intensity throughout the mountains. First half of the day, probably lightish snow, but the snow intensifies as we head through to Thursday. Denver, meantime, kind of an in-between day for us, so we'll actually kind of briefly warm up here in town before that next storm system arrives, and that'll lead to that possibility for some New Year's Eve snow. Finally, yes, snow for us here in Denver. It's not just the mountains this time. We get some of it down here along the eastern reaches of the state. So for tomorrow, Denver, I mentioned we do briefly warm up. So the mountains get the snow. Tomorrow, it's Denver getting the sunshine, 50 degrees, not bad. It is breezy, especially west and north of town. We will be looking at some gusty winds in the northern foothills and northern mountains. 50 degrees for your day tomorrow, but that's out ahead of our next storm system. There it is, arriving around kind of mid to late morning on your Friday, that sharp cold front. This is going to bring in Arctic air. If you've seen all the kind of crazy weather that's been going on up in Seattle, where they've been below freezing, I think for 84 consecutive hours or something ridiculous like that. This is that same air mass that's going to push its way through the Denver area. And with it, notice we get an area of low pressure that develops in southeast Colorado. If you're a bit of a weather junkie or a weather nerd like myself, no judgment at all, you've got this strong area of low pressure that develops over southeast Colorado. Winds around an area of low pressure go in a counterclockwise fashion. So if you kind of draw that out enough, that picks up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and it shoves it back here into the front range. So this is, when we see an area of low pressure that develops over southeast Colorado, that's usually a kind of note to us as meteorologists. So that means snow for us starting up on your Friday afternoon and to your Friday night. And that snow will be heavy at times. So folks, between the ongoing pandemic with the Omicron variant, everything like that, and the fact that it's going to be snowing and temperatures will be falling into the single digits and teens, this is going to be one of those New Year's Eves. Probably just want to kick it on the couch and flip on the TV, have a beverage of choice. That's all I'm going to be doing, and hopefully you as well. It's going to be slick on the roads. It's going to be very, very cold outside. It's going to be one of those, again, New Year's Eves between everything going on that you're probably going to want to just kind of kick it inside. That's my 2 cents. I'll leave it up to you, but from a nerd in a suits perspective, that's the way to go as we head through your New Year's Eve and into your New Year's Day. That snow does continue for us as we get into your Saturday, the start of 2022, so we'll ring in the new year with some Mother Nature confetti here in the form of some of that snowfall. A couple of questions about this storm system that, since I have a little bit of added time, I'll kind of spell out for you. There's a couple of things that are in my mind as a meteorologist that are going to keep us from getting maybe onto those higher snowfall totals as the snow starts on up. So notice 1 o'clock Friday. The snow, as it first starts to fall, will probably not stick all that much here in Denver because temperatures will probably be right around, if not just above freezing. Plus the solar angle, even with the clouds, you'll still have that sun melting some of that snow on contact. So long story short, I don't think the snow really sticks all that much during the day on Friday. When it does start to stick, by 7 o'clock, sun goes down, temperatures will start to plummet behind that front. We'll be dropping into the 20s. So this snow will certainly be sticking. So if you're playing around your New Year's Eve, get whatever you got done, ideally during the morning before the snow starts up, but if you have to, before kind of 3, 4 o'clock. That's when that snow probably first starts to stick. And on the roads, probably doesn't start to stick until after dark. It could maybe a little bit before sunset here, but by Friday night, again, it's going to be snowing. It is going to be coming down here in the Denver area. So very different from our very non-white Christmas when we got up to 55 degrees in Denver on your Christmas Day. Now, your New Year's Eve and your New Year's Day, it's going to be almost kind of iconic, right? It's going to be snowing and it's going to be cold for us here in town. By 2 a.m. on your Saturday morning for those of you celebrating the New Year and still up at that hour, I might still be up there. Denver, still seeing some of that snow for us. And again, the roads are going to be a mess as we get through the overnight hours on your Friday night into your Saturday morning. That snow does continue till about mid-morning on your Saturday before it fully winds on down, but not before. Here's a look at those freshly updated snowfall totals. I was just texting my colleague, meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen, about some of these totals. We were kind of hashing it out and discussing what to do here. Yesterday at the 10 o'clock news, I had it at 1 to 3 inches here in Denver. We bumped it up to 2 to 5 because it looks like it'll be cold enough to support that snow fairly early on this event, and it looks like we get some pretty decent banding within this storm system that'll set up over Denver. That's not a given. So there's 2 big questions I got in my mind. 1, those temperatures. Number 2, the bands. If that band sets up the way that a lot of the computer models are showing today, we're going to be on the higher end. We're probably going to be around 5, 6 inches here in Denver if those 2 things come together. If it's 33, 34 at the outset of this, and it drops pretty quickly, and we start sticking by about 3, 4 o'clock with that snow. I think Denver's looking at closer to 5, 6 inches. If not, then we're looking at maybe 2 to 3 inches here in town. And then again, some of those bands sitting on up over Denver. Those are the 2 big questions I got in my mind as a meteorologist. Again, it's a longer form thing, and you can kind of go behind with this Facebook weather, and here on 9 News Watch as well, I can hopefully give you a bit more detail about what we are thinking about. So this is what I'm looking at in terms of those possible snow impacts. Kind of bump things up from snow big deal to snow shovels. I think we're going to actually have to break out those snow shovels for the first time this season. I know, it's not exactly a big blizzard, nothing we can't handle, nothing compared to what we had back in March when we had, 30 inches of snow here in Denver. I mean, we're getting a fraction of that, but it's real snow. It's really going to make an impact on the roads. And yes, I'm having a little fun with this graphic, but on a serious note, those New Year's Eve and New Year's Day plans will be probably pretty messy because of this snow. So just keep that in mind. It's going to cover the roads. It's going to make it a mess out there. And again, if you're kind of wavering right now about what to do about New Year's Eve, kick it on the couch. Just do it. It's, we're in the middle of the pandemic still. It's going to be snowing. I mean, do you really want to be fighting the roads and paying, $20 for a drink? I don't know. That's not me. But you're not here for that. For your Saturday, it's really, really cold. Don't want to overlook the fact that it's going to be very, very cold on Saturday. We're going to start off at 10 degrees, get a bitterly cold air mass as drops its way on through. That drops those temperatures down to 10 for your New Year's morning, and then we warm up to 24, but then that snow is long gone. That's one of the best things about living here in Denver, isn't it? It's those temperatures. They rebound so quickly here, and that snow, I grew up on the East Coast originally, and that snow, I mean, when you get 2 to 5 inches of snow, it just sticks around all winter long, right? I mean, it just turns brown and black, and it's gross. Here in Denver, it's one of my favorite things about living here is that snow. I mean, poof, it's gone, and it will be by Monday because we're going to be back up into the 50s, mid-50s by the middle of next week. So a little bit of everything. If you don't want the snow, just wait till next week. If you do want the snow, which I think is the majority of you, we get it, and we'll get some decent ones. All right, now that I've been rambling here for a little while, let's take a look at some of those comments and questions that you might have about this, and I imagine there will be because there's, you know, it's the first kind of, I mean, I know we've had 0.3 inches of snow. We had a little bit a couple weeks ago, but this is going to be almost for sure our biggest snow event of the season. Doesn't look like I have any comments or questions at this point, so that should do it here for that Facebook weather. Again, 2 to 5 inches of snow in Denver. I'll leave you with that map one more time for you about what we can expect over the next little while. It's about 2 to 5 inches, probably a good bet for us here in Denver. 3 to 6 along the Divide and the foothills just west of town. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.